former school teacher, I'm not used to having people applaud when I stand up to speak. So thank you. Thank you. My name is Jim Olson. I have the honor of being the president of the Johnson County chapter of the United Nations Association of the USA, which is the organizing group for this evening. I want to welcome you to the 19th annual Night of 1,000 Dinners. Believe that the United Nations is important, that it's even more important now in 2019 than it was when it was formed in 1945. We try to show how the UN does good work that benefits people around the world, but also benefits people here in Iowa and in our local communities. We advocate for a strong partnership between the United States and the United Nations. So this is the 19th annual Night of 1,000 Dinners. This year, the event is a community celebration of International Women's Day, which was held around the world last Friday on March 8th. International Women's Day is an opportunity to recognize and to celebrate the contributions and achievements of women in all countries, and we celebrate it with the recognition that International Women's Day is important not just for women, but for all people. And efforts to advance and empower women benefit all men, children, and women. Tonight, we are honoring 3 organizations which were either founded by women or have significant volunteer and staff leadership by women, or provide significant services to women, in some cases, all 3 of those situations. We're honoring them for their work here in our community to advance the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. On your table, there is a card which looks like this. This card describes the 17 Sustainable Development Goals which were adopted by the UN General Assembly for the period running from 2015 to 2030. The Sustainable Development Goals are extremely ambitious. They call for, among other things, the eradication of poverty, the eradication of hunger by the year 2030, and in keeping with the spirit of International Women's Day, one of the goals is complete gender equity by the year 2030. This is a joyous evening and a celebratory event, but as we gather here tonight to celebrate International Women's Day and to enjoy this wonderful international buffet, I would suggest that we should also remember women, children, and men around the world who do not have much to celebrate. The world's 60 million forcibly displaced persons, most of whom are women and children, women and their children who are now on our southern border, women whose lives are insecure due to poverty, oppression, war, and climate change. We should also keep in mind the UN personnel who over nearly 75 years have worked day in and day out to help advance women. And in that group of UN personnel that we might keep in mind, I would call attention to the nearly 4,000 UN peacekeepers who have given their lives since 1948. And I would call attention to the recent tragedy, the death of 22 employees of UN-related agencies who died on Sunday in the plane crash in Ethiopia. So I'd like to ask us just to take a moment to think about all of the women and other men and children whose lives are insecure, and to UN personnel over the decades who have worked so hard and in some cases even given their lives for this cause. So let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. UNA is an advocacy organization. As I mentioned, we advocate for a strong, constructive partnership between the United States and the United Nations. I'd like to call your attention to a petition on your table. This is a petition which asks you to endorse our call for a stronger partnership between the U.S. and the UN, especially calling attention to the work of the UN on behalf of women. This petition is addressed to Representative Dave Loebsack and our U.S. Senators Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst. This petition would be important in any case, but it's even more important this week because the Trump administration has just sent its budget request to Congress. And that budget request calls for a 30% reduction in U.S. financial support for the UN. That is not only immoral, in my opinion, but it is detrimental to our national interest. And so I would urge you, if you feel comfortable with this petition, to sign it. We will collect them and send them to our representatives in Congress. There are several people I want to thank and to acknowledge. I want to thank the hardworking planning committee for tonight's event, and I'd like to introduce them. The planning committee was chaired by Jean Lloyd-Jones. The other members are Natalia Burnham, Bob Burnham, Katie Hansen, Joyce Carmen Baldus, Mercedes Byrne-Klug, Rita Loftus, Ben Whitwer, and John Paul Mugamuzzi. I'd also like to introduce other members. All of these people whose names I just read are members of our chapter's board of directors, and I'd like to introduce three other hardworking members of our board: Janice Weiner, John Fuller, and Dorothy Paul. I want to thank our 16 co-sponsors whose names are given on the back side of the back page of the program. These businesses, faith groups, community groups have provided either financial or in-kind support for this event. And this is a fundraiser. The proceeds from the event will be used will be donated to UN agencies and other groups that empower women, and our proceeds will also support UNA's educational work in Iowa. I'd like to also thank our 15 volunteers. Raise your hand. And lastly, I'd like to thank PATV for recording and airing this event. In addition to these thank yous, I'd like to make the following acknowledgments. There are 3 members of the, well actually 6. There are 6 members of the board of the Iowa UNA, which is our statewide organization. In addition to Jean Lloyd-Jones, Katie Hansen, Dorothy Paul, whom I mentioned earlier. There are 3 other Iowa UNA board members present: Carol Lyons, Sandra Estrom, and Ed Cranston, and John Fraser. Finally, I'd also like to acknowledge Andrea Cohen, who until quite recently has been the executive director of the Iowa UNA. Andrea has served in that post for over 2 years, And we're happy for her and her family. They're returning to the Netherlands, but we're also sad to see her leave our community and thank her for her service. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge David Lashley, who is representing Congressman Dave Loebsack. Now it's my honor to introduce Jim Throckmorton, Mayor of Iowa City, who will bring greetings.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Jim. Well, it's really great to be with you here again tonight, like last year and previous years. This time to help celebrate International Women's Day. I understand that the theme this year is #Balance for Better. It's a call to action to build a gender balanced and therefore better future, better world. I also understand from listening to Jim and so on that this event honors 3 organizations that are advancing gender balance in Iowa: the Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa, 100 Grantees for a Livable World, and Iowa Legal Aid. You could not have picked 3 better organizations to honor. I know them all well, and you've done a great job of picking them. I want to honor them as well, but I'm going to do so indirectly, and this is going to involve a little bit of audience participation. Y'all like to do this, right? So tonight, I want to call out the names of specific women who have worked to build a better world while also being refugees or immigrants or descendants of people who were. I could name 99 women in honor of that's right, League of Women Voters. Their birthday, 99. Or I could name 100 women in honor of 100 Grantees. Or maybe 1,000 in honor of Tony Stinner. And I'm going to resist the temptation to read that many names. What I will do instead is call out 15 women who have demonstrated diverse ways of building a better future. So I'm kind of hoping, this is part of where we start with the audience participation, I'm kind of hoping you'll kind of nod at me if you recognize the name. Okay? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Fannie Lou Hamer. She's an African-American Mississippian who led efforts in the 1960s to gain her people's right to vote and co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Rachel Carson. She's the author of Silent Spring, who has often been called the mother of the modern environmental movement. Jane Addams. A few of you know her. In 1889, Jane Addams co-founded Chicago's Hull House to provide an array of vital services to recent immigrants and who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931. How about Dolores Huerta? Not so many names nodding, or faces and heads nodding. Dolores was a Mexican-American who co-founded the National Farm Workers Association and fought for the rights of Chicanos on the agricultural fields of California. How about Carrie Chapman Catt? Yeah, okay. She was an Iowan who campaigned tirelessly for adoption of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and who in 1920 founded the League of Women Voters. How about the 146 female garment workers who died in New York City back in 1911 at the Triangle Factory Shirtwaist Fire? Elinor Ostrom. I thought I'd catch you by surprise and give you an unfamiliar name. No, I'm not even going to say anything about Elinor. How about Hannah Arendt? A few of you know her. She was a Jewish woman who actually was a refugee from Nazi Germany and became one of the world's most influential political philosophers. Harriet Jacobs. All right. I know Harriet Jacobs only through my wife, Barbara Eckstein, who reads the Bible, right? So Harriet Jacobs was an enslaved woman who hid for 7 years in a crawl space above the ceiling of her grandmother Molly's shack. Escaped from the situation she was in and lived to write incidents in the life of a slave girl. Might be worth reading. How about Maxine Hong Kingston? She is a contemporary author who has written numerous works that vividly present a tapestry of her Chinese heritage and the experiences of the Asian immigrant community in America. Emma Goldman. A few of you know Emma. A Jewish woman who immigrated from Russia to the United States 135 years ago, became a labor activist. She was an anarchist, opposed the U.S.'s involvement in World War I, and later agitated against military conscription, and I think was actually deported back to Russia later on. Dorothea Lange. Yeah, some of you know her. An American documentary photographer and photojournalist best known for her Depression-era work for the Farm Security Administration. Many of her photographs are just really very famous. Elinor Ostrom. I don't see a single nodding head. Okay. Elinor Ostrom was an American political economist who focused on institutional economics and is the only woman to win the Nobel Prize in Economics. Maya Lin. Yeah, many of you know her. She's the daughter of Chinese immigrants and the landscape architect who designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. at the age of 21. Last, Mary Beth Tinker. Janice is nodding her head. Maybe a few others. So, Mary Beth Tinker was a free speech activist known for her role in the 1969 Tinker versus Des Moines School District's Supreme Court case, which ruled that Warren Harding Junior High School could not punish her for wearing a black armband in school to support a truce during the Vietnam War. So, wow, what a collection of 15 great women. Some of whom are well known, some of whom are not. But what about women who are making their mark in the present? So this is where I really want you to do a little audience participation. You know better than I which women are making great contributions now. So, shout out the names of contemporary women you greatly admire.
Dorothy Paul.
Go on, shout out. As loud as you can shout. Rakisha Harrington. Who else?
Amanda Shrawley.
Everybody at once.
James Weiner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that audience participation. And thank you for your leadership in so many areas. And I would like to call attention to your leadership in the area of climate action and the example which Iowa City is setting. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to call on Britta Schnorr, who will make the presentations to our three honored organizations.
Very much. My name is Britta Schnorr, and I'm one of the board members of our local chapter here in the Johnson County chapter of the United Nations Association. I'm a native of Iowa City, and I'm also a proud graduate of the Iowa College of Law, as well as the United Nations University for Peace in Costa Rica. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing our honorees. As Jim mentioned, tonight we're honoring 3 local organizations. Because we're celebrating International Women's Day, we are recognizing organizations that support and empower women. In addition, we are recognizing organizations that support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Each of these organizations is involved in work that supports one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. Turning to the honorees, the first organization we are recognizing tonight is the 100 Grantees for a Livable World. 100 Grantees was founded in 2012 by Barbara Schlachter and Ann Christensen. The mission of 100 Grantees is to educate, advocate, and agitate for renewable energy, pure water, clean air, and a healthy environment for future generations. The goal of 100 Grantees is a fossil fuel-free future. In this regard, the goal of 100 Grantees matches up particularly well with the Sustainable Development Goal of climate action. The work of 100 Grantees also impacts other Sustainable Development Goals. For example, 100 Grantees has long been involved in tackling the issue of plastic bags. The group has sought to ban plastic bags because of the damage they can cause to the environment, including to the soil, waterways, and to land and sea life. In this regard, the 100 Grantees are impacting the Sustainable Development Goals of life below water, life on land, clean water, and responsible consumption and production. 100 Grantees has also fought against the Keystone, XL, and Bakken pipelines. 100 Grantees opposes these pipelines because of the risks of leaks, oil spills, and pollution. In addition, they oppose these pipelines because they encourage the continued production of oil instead of reducing reliance on fossil fuels. In this regard, the 100 Grantees are impacting the Sustainable Development Goals of clean water, affordable and clean energy, and climate action. These are just a couple of the examples of the ways in which the 100 Grantees advocates and impacts the Sustainable Development Goals. Just as the Sustainable Development Goals advocate for a sustainable world, the 100 Grantees advocate for a livable world. Moreover, in honoring the 100 Grantees tonight, it's particularly relevant because we're honoring International Women's Day today. 100 Grantees demonstrates the power of women to make the world a better place, and we are delighted to honor their important work tonight. Accepting this award on behalf of 100 Grantees for a Livable World is Ann Christensen, one of the co-founders. Ann, could you please come forward to accept the award? Presenting tonight states, we are pleased to present the Certificate of Recognition to 100 Grantees for a Livable World for their vigorous and persistent efforts to educate, advocate, and agitate for renewable energy, pure water, clean air, and a healthy environment for future generations.
Very grateful for this honor, and I'm speaking on behalf of all our members and all our future members. That introduction just took away most of my little talk that I worked on, but I do want to expand slightly on that and explain how this all started. In April of 2012, 11 women sat down to dinner at Barbara Schlachter's home. Barbara shared with us her vision of 100 Grantees standing on a railroad track, challenging a coal train. She had just read Jim Hansen's, the climatologist from Iowa, his book, Stories of Our Grandchildren, Tales of Our Grandchildren. And she envisioned these 100 Grantees and wanted to bring women together to fight climate change. Our mission statement is to educate, advocate, and agitate for renewable energies, pure water, clean air, and a healthy, sustainable environment for future generations. You mentioned a few ways we do these things. I'd like to just list a few more and tell you that every Monday in March, we hold a lecture series at the Senior Center on environmental issues with discussion. And every September, we hold an environmental film series. These are free and open to the public. And the next lecture is next Monday night. We write letters and op-ed essays. We speak to civic groups, schools and classes, churches. We've been on radio and TV. Every year we donate a book to all the elementary schools in our district. We are producing our own series of young reader books and have over on our table over there, we have Granny Green's Thankful Book and Granny Green's T-shirt bag book. And this summer we will be coming out with Granny Green's Friendly Yard. We advocate. We lobby our elected officials, as Jim well knows. We have worked to eliminate single-use plastic bags that are devastating our oceans. Many, many countries, including third world countries and cities, have banned plastic bags, but in their great wisdom, our legislature has forbidden them. You might do a little lobbying there. We are promoting Iowa State University's Good Neighbor program that encourages reducing the amount of pesticides used on school grounds, parks, and lawns. We are fighting hard for a moratorium on factory farms. And we agitate. Eleanor Roosevelt once wrote, "A woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she gets in hot water." Well, we've been in hot water. About a dozen of us have been arrested at protests against the Keystone XL and Bakken pipelines. We have hung pro-climate banners from the big bridge on Riverside and other places. We have done street theater in Des Moines. We have testified in hearings and participated in actions from Standing Rock, North Dakota, to the Piney Woods of Texas, from Washington, D.C., to Alaska, and all over Iowa. Older means bolder. We are not afraid to speak out. At our ages, we have nothing to lose. It is the future generations, our grandchildren, and their children, and yours, who will bear the afflictions and hardships. Will they say, "You knew? Why didn't you do something?" In closing, I want to read a poem by Barbara Schlachter. Many of you knew Barbara. She died in 2016. We miss her terribly, but we honor her work as we strive to build on it and fulfill her presence. This is a call to ordinary women by Barbara Schlachter. For just such a time as this, ordinary women are called upon to do extraordinary things so that the grandchildren of the world, who may be the ones calling, will have a livable future. We are called to resolution, reconciliation, and revolution. We resolve to reconcile the human species with Mother Earth and to create the clean energy revolution. We will no longer watch as bystanders and allow air, water, and land to be exploited and global temperatures to rise. We are ready to live simply and actively so that future generations can experience life as a gift and everyone can have enough. To do this, there need to be many of us, many grannies. How could you not join us? Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you to the 100 Grannies for Livable World for the important work you're doing for our environment. The next organization we are honoring tonight is the Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa. The Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa was founded in 2012 by a coalition of religious, community, labor, and immigrant organizations. It is affiliated nationally with the Interfaith Worker Justice Network. The Center for Worker Justice unites low-wage workers in Eastern Iowa across race and immigration status to achieve social and economic justice through education, organization, direct service, and community alliances. One of the center's priorities is advocating for just workplaces by defending workers' rights to proper payment and safe work. In this regard, the organization's work makes progress toward the Sustainable Development Goal of decent work and economic growth. Another priority of the Center for Worker Justice is affordable housing. The Center for Worker Justice works to protect and improve housing options for low-income residents. Through this work, the Center advances the first Sustainable Development Goal, no poverty. The Center for Worker Justice also works in the area of civil rights by confronting discrimination and ensuring equal access to community services for all residents. The work also ties into the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular, the goal to reduce inequality. A final area the Center for Worker Justice prioritizes is immigration. In this regard, the Center for Worker Justice provides assistance to those affected by immigration policies, advancing the goal of sustainable cities and communities. In addition to focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals, tonight we are recognizing International Women's Day. By prioritizing workers' rights, affordable housing, civil rights, and immigration, the Center for Worker Justice is doing valuable work to support and empower women in our community. As a result, we are honored to recognize the Center for Worker Justice tonight. Accepting this award on behalf of the Center for Worker Justice is Marcella Barada. Marcella, could you please come forward to accept this award? On this certificate of recognition, it states, "We're pleased to present this certificate of recognition to the Center for Worker Justice of Eastern Iowa for its robust and persistent efforts to unite low-wage workers across race and immigration status to achieve social and economic justice through education, direct services, and community alliances."
Good evening. She is my friend. She is the interpreter for me. Esta noche me complace mucho estar con todos ustedes.
Okay, good evening everyone. I am Marcelo Taro, Vice President and founding member of the Center for Worker Justice in Eastern Iowa. Tonight, I am very pleased to be with all of you.
Compartiendo recuerdos felices de hace 7 años.
Sharing happy memories from 7 years ago.
Cuando comenzamos a tener ideas, reuniones y discusiones.
When we started having ideas having ideas, meetings, discussions,
y planificar sobre cómo hacer cambios para mejorar la vida de los ciudadanos de Iowa City.
and planning how to make changes for a better life in the citizens of Iowa City,
Y en el condado de Johnson y lo que es el estado.
Johnson County, and the whole state.
Aunque no estamos físicamente en todo el estado
Although we are not physically in the whole state
y no hemos logrado todos nuestros objetivos,
and have not achieved all our goals,
hemos tenido un gran impacto social y económico
we have made a great social and economic impact
en nuestra sociedad y gracias a la pasión y la visión
in our society, thanks to the passion, vision,
y el trabajo arduo de todas las personas de CWF.
and the hard work of all the people at the Center for Workers' Justice.
Un cambio social para mejorar está aquí.
A social change for better is here.
Esta noche, en nombre de la Junta y los miembros del Centro de Justicia Laboral,
Tonight, on behalf of the board and members of the Center for Workers' Justice,
les agradecemos este reconocimiento.
I thank you for this recognition.
Nos anima a trabajar aún más
It encourages us to work even harder
y con más pasión para nuestra comunidad.
and more passionately for our community.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Marcela Hurtado. I'm a mother for 3 kids. And I am founder for the Center for Workers' Justice. Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias, Marcela. The next organization we are honoring tonight is the Iowa City Regional Office for Iowa Legal Aid. Iowa Legal Aid provides critical legal assistance to low-income and vulnerable Iowans who have nowhere else to turn. Iowa Legal Aid envisions a state where low-income people have access to services and resources to meet their basic needs and where all residents can vindicate their legal rights and be treated fairly throughout the justice system. The work that Iowa Legal Aid does dovetails perfectly with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Through the services it offers, Iowa Legal Aid prioritizes many of the goals. Iowa Legal Aid makes progress toward these goals by helping clients to obtain and retain food assistance and benefits, protecting the rights of children with disabilities, challenging unlawful disconnection or refusal of municipal water service, representing workers in unemployment hearings, helping seasonal farm workers obtain wages they are owed, and assisting people with starting and maintaining small businesses in our community. In addition, Iowa Legal Aid partners with other agencies in our community, and as well as the private bar and the judicial system, in order to provide greater access to the justice system. Iowa Legal Aid helps low-income Iowans through other ways, and among other ways, through its economic development project. One of the reasons we chose to honor Iowa Legal Aid tonight is because we are recognizing International Women's Day. Iowa Legal Aid prioritizes the Sustainable Development Goal of gender equity. One example of how Iowa Legal Aid advances this goal is through its representation of survivors of domestic violence. Iowa Legal Aid represents these survivors in obtaining orders for protection, in obtaining divorce, and in obtaining stability services. When Iowa Legal Aid helps survivors of domestic violence increase their safety and stability, there are notable results. A research project concerning women who received representation from Iowa Legal Aid found that the women who had either received a divorce or a domestic abuse protective order found that the women's total monthly income increased significantly, that their access to use of public assistance decreased, and that they reported less difficulty in living off of their income, as well as increased adequacy of the resources. As a result of their important work in supporting and empowering women and the Sustainable Development Goals, we are honored to recognize Iowa Legal Aid tonight. Accepting this award on behalf of Iowa Legal Aid is Jan Rutledge. Jan, could you please come forward and accept this award? The certificate we are presenting tonight to Iowa Legal Aid states, we are pleased to present this certificate of recognition to the Iowa City Regional Office of Iowa Legal Aid for providing hope, dignity, and justice to low-income persons by protecting their fundamental rights, basic necessities, and access to the judicial system in a comprehensive mission encompassing 11 of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I joined Iowa Legal Aid right out of law school back in 1982, and I've been in the Iowa City office that whole time. And pretty much from the day I started until now, the vast majority of clients at Iowa Legal Aid have been women. Last year, about 70% of the primary clients were women. Women are more likely to be poor than men are. Women are about 35% more likely than men to live in poverty. So the impact work that Iowa Legal Aid does to ameliorate poverty benefits women. And a frequent reason, as was mentioned, for contacting Iowa Legal Aid is relief from domestic violence. And that is a major area of work for Iowa Legal Aid. And we handle not only protective order hearings, but also appeals when they are needed. And I think it's fair to say that pretty much the body of law that has developed around assisting victims of domestic violence has pretty much been based on the cases handled by Iowa Legal Aid. So having representation in those cases certainly helps achieve stability and safety. And we're also pleased to mention the study that was done. We partnered with University of Iowa and another person at the University of Minnesota, social work, to look at what happens after that. Usually when we close a case, we don't know what happens to our clients afterwards. And so we hope that they're all better off. It's really great to find out they are. The study took 3 years, and there are copies of it back at the table if you would like to have one, and also brochures about Iowa Legal Aid. But we found, yes, that they are better off, not just economically, but also in terms of their emotional health and their progress in other areas. Now, of course, not all cases involve domestic violence or family law. We help with many other areas, including benefits and tax relief, maybe for innocent spouse, and many other problems. One of the common areas for contacting Iowa Legal Aid is housing. And I'll just share one case with you. It was a recent case from the Court of Appeals. In that case, it highlights the work we do in housing and also in protecting survivors of domestic violence. In that case, Iowa Legal Aid represented a survivor of domestic abuse and facing an eviction. Even though she was the victim of abuse, her landlord served her with a notice to vacate under Iowa's clear and present danger statute, in part because she had called out for someone to call the police when she was being assaulted. Now, this case marked the first time that an appellate court in Iowa was asked to look at the 2015 Right to Assistance Act, which prohibits landlords and municipalities from adopting policies that penalize victims of crime from accessing potentially life-saving emergency services. And the case also addressed provisions of Iowa law that protect victims of crime from being evicted along with the people who are victimizing them. In a unanimous decision, the Iowa Court of Appeals reversed the lower courts and remanded the case to be dismissed. The court decided the case in such a way that it did not have to reach the issue concerning the Right to Assistance Act, so that may be an issue for another day. Iowa Legal Aid makes hope, dignity, and justice available to low-income Iowans, and it is thrilling to have the work of Iowa Legal Aid recognized by the Johnson County United Nations Association. And on behalf of Iowa Legal Aid, I thank you very much for this honor.
Christensen, Marcella Hirado, and Jan Rutledge for those very inspiring words, and thank the organizations they represent for the contributions that they made to our community. I'd like to ask the three of you, after we're done, if you would please return up here so that we can have a good picture of all three of you. At this point, we are going to enjoy a musical presentation by a group from the Refugee and Immigrant Association. And I'd like to introduce Pastor Glenn Mungo Wendell, who is a leader of that association, who will introduce the group.
Sorry, I need you, Brother Jim. Jim, I need you here. Sorry. Sometimes people, they don't like surprise. So I will surprise him today for a short story. Believe it or not, this is my first time to stand in front of many people like this from this country and speak something. And Refugee and Immigrant Association is very happy to have this guy among us. And he knows that this is my first time to speak. He knows that. And many are familiar with Jump Up. But today, I want to say thank you for America helping refugees. And this guy, there's a day he tells us a story about how he went on the road and somebody just come, I don't know, was left or right side, and they just kick his vehicle and they had a car crash. But when he just left from his car and go and see who did touch his vehicle, you know how if you are driving and you get somebody just kick your vehicle and scratch, you know how you feel. But when he was out of his vehicle and he could talk to the person who just was who didn't hit his car, and he recognized that the person was a refugee, and because he was a refugee and he is among us as the volunteer who was helping refugee, he just told him that as long as you are a refugee, just go home. I will not call the police. So from that history, I was to say that you Americans are doing a great job. Just to forgive somebody you don't know, because he's just a refugee, and you say, go home, I will take care of my car. So thank you so much. It is so amazing to see people gathering together for only one goal. You are not closing your eyes. Always you are opening your eyes for one goal. You are supporting somebody you don't know somewhere in the world. And those people, one of them is me. You helped me one day. I've been in the camp for like 6 years, but I didn't know who was helping me. But today I can experience the people who are helping me, the people who are still helping others who are remaining in Africa and in the entire world. So thank you, and clap the hand for yourself. It's so amazing. But just think if you couldn't help somebody like this organization, you are contributing or doing some contribution, and you give to them and they support UNCR. But by doing so, UNCR came to the camp or helped me, and today I can be here today and speak to you because you did something. And the people that you are helping, they are still in life because of you. We thank you so much because if you could not even support one single dollar, then people, they could remain or they could be not in life. And one of the people that you have helped, I think when they came here, they do whatever they can to support their families back home or to help others that are remaining. And in between or among us today, we have people you helped so much, and they're here. They will be singing for us. That's why we can say, if you can sing today, we are singing because somebody touched his pocket and they give something. And today you are here to give something. That's very helpful to everyone in the world. So continue doing that, and I will be welcoming the group to come and sing for you to what you did for us. Thank you.
So much. You enrich our lives. We're so enriched by the fact that you now live here in our community. We're so grateful for that. And thank you for performing this evening.
Where are they from?
You're all from Congo, is that right? Congo. So, good. Well, we're almost finished, and I do want to call your attention to some things that are on your table. If you haven't had a chance to sign the petition, I urge you to do that. Secondly, you will find on the table a sheet of paper and an envelope. This is where we ask if you might be willing to consider some additional involvement in our organization, financial contribution if you can see your way clear to do that. And also, we had a whole team of board members and volunteers who put on this event this evening, and we need even more volunteers. And we seek to reach out to enlarge our organization and to diversify it so that it reflects all of the segments of our community here in Johnson County. And then lastly, the sheet invites you to nominate an organization to be recognized next year. So look for the sheet on the table. There's an envelope that goes with it. Please fill that in, and we look forward to your contributions in that way. And then I'd like to call your attention to this card, also on the table. This is a card inviting you to join the Johnson County chapter of the United Nations Association. As I mentioned at the outset, we are a nonpartisan membership organization. We think the UN is important, as I mentioned earlier. We think and we know from public opinion polling in Iowa that most Iowans agree with us, that 77% of Iowans believe that the UN is still a very useful organization after 74 years. That is the result of a Hawkeye poll, which was taken in Iowa last fall. So there's a high level of public support. What we want to do is to show our representatives in Washington, other policymakers and opinion shapers, that there is a visible and vocal constituency in this state which is calling upon the United States to be a good member of the UN. So this is a membership card which shows you how to become a member. Introductory memberships are $25 a year. How many of you are students? Students can actually join for free. Our organization has a youth movement called Gen UN, and there's information on the card as well as to how you can go online and become a member of Gen UN, and actually students don't have to pay anything at all. Most of the members of UNA nationwide, in fact, are under the age of 25. You may not guess it to look at me, but actually UNA is a youth movement. And so we invite people of all ages to all ages and all segments of our community to join with us. So, with that, I thank you again for coming this evening. If you have a sticker, if you were given a sticker, that means we have your contact information and we'll be informing you about our upcoming events. If you don't have a sticker and didn't share your contact information and would like to, we do have those forms at the door as you leave. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you very soon, and certainly at Night of 1,000 Dinners next year. Good night.